Hello everyone, this video has been in the works for a while. It's been sitting on my bench for a long time. And since we had Mark from Goblin's Hut on last episode, I wanted to go ahead and try the Dirty Down paints out for myself finally. And that's what I did. That's what I'm about to do. I have not touched them. I've opened them. I shook them up with my paint shaker because what he said was they have to be stirred perfectly. So I wanted to make sure that I can hear that agitator going around in there. And so everything's there. So the prep I did for this episode is I printed out a bunch of little bases, like miniature bases, and based them in different colors to try and, test out what looks best for the rust, what might look best for the moss, and same with the verdigris. So we'll see how that goes. A couple things I found out about some of the other paints that I've been using for a while. And I'll flip over to the other camera here now because one thing I want to talk about right away is Reikland Flesh Shade. This is an old bottle and this is a new bottle. And I had originally based this in this one. All right, this one that I'm going to be using. I had based this with the XV88 from Citadel as a base, and then gave it a wash of Reikland it's going to be impossible to say, of Reikland Flesh Shade, and it turned out glossy. And I was like, what the heck? And that lines up with something that had happened a couple weeks ago when I was painting a Skaven model, and I had brushed this on there, and it looked like it was drying glossy. And I was like, what is going on? It's never acted like that before. So I was like, okay, whatever. So I went back and grabbed the old bottle of Reikland Flesh Shade. Why is this not focusing right? Of Reikland Flesh Shade, and it dried flat. And then someone had reminded me that when the new line of contrast paints came out, that Citadel changed the formula. And I think they changed the Reikland Flesh Shade formula to where it dries a bit glossier than the old one did. So that I don't like because I don't want to have to add an extra step in there. So I might be moving away from this. And what I ended up doing was testing it versus Monument Hobbies Flesh Wash. Okay. And I just did some on a piece of paper. And this is the result. This, and you can see right away. Okay. Ready? I can tell. This is the Monument Hobbies. This is the Citadel Reikland Flesh Shade, the new one. And if I just kind of turn this in the camera, you can see the shine show up in that pooling area right there. That is not how it used to dry. Over here on the Monument Hobbies side, you don't really get that glossy. You get some right there, but nowhere near like what you get on this side. So with that being said, I did go back. This is the old Reikland on there, so it's a little not as shiny. And then on this side, I just want to go through what I did for each base here and what I used as a base coat and what I gave it as for a wash. So starting with the ones I'm going to use the rust on, I based this in lead belcher and then used Nuln oil on that. Okay. And then on this one, I used, camera, I hate you, dark neutral gray from Monument. That's what it turns out with some Nuln oil on it. And then I also used some Blood Reaver Flesh from Citadel for this one, and then threw a wash of Nuln oil over it. Or no, this one didn't have Nuln oil. This one had Agrax Earth Shade over it. Okay, so that's what that looks like. Get in there. Okay. And then this base was Monument Hobbies Dark Warm Gray is what I used on this. And it's a bit, I really like this gray. It's kind of a nice middle of the road gray. I really like that. And that has the Nuln oil over it, not the Reikland Flesh Shade. So those are the ones I'm going to try the rust out on. This one I had just mentioned was the XV88 base with Reikland Flesh Shade over it. And then this one is Retributor Armor, okay, with Reikland Flesh Shade over it. These final two ones, this one is Rakarth Flesh with, I think I put Agrax Earthshade over this one. I'm almost positive. This one is Wraithbone with Mortarion Grime over it. Because it's kind of what I have a plan for my Death Guard when I get around to painting it, is something a little bit like this. So I wanted to see how it looked. So I'm going to be doing Rust on these. I'm going to be doing Verdigris on these two. And I'm going to be doing the Moss on those two right there. So like I said, here's Moss from Dirty Down. Here is Rust from Dirty Down. And here is the Verdigris from Dirty Down. So they all have been shaken up really well. And I'm just going to go in it and kind of play around with each one. Let's see how it goes. So I'm going to open the Rust first. I don't think I've even, oh no, I did open it to get the seal off. So there's our Rust Dirty Down. Ooh, I'm going to put it in these things that I printed so I don't spill it as easy. First off, smell. Has a nice, strong glue sniffing smell, if anything. So that's kind of cool. The bonus. I'm not going to be using my best brushes for this. I'm going to kind of just use some older brushes that I have, knowing that they'll probably get wrecked. So let's just start out real quick. I put these on some caps from Game Envy, and I'm going to just go ahead and dip this in there and give this a wash, not all over the place. Just gonna brush it on certain areas over this, and then see how that ends up. Already I can tell with it drying. Oh man, I'm gonna love this. Look at that. Already. Just in seconds. That has a great rust effect on there. I'm gonna put just a little on that. I'm gonna let that, man. So Mark had said, you know, try it with some water, try applying it on wet surfaces. To see how it reacts, try and do some other things. I have a pot of just plain water right here. And as that's drying, it's still wet in spots, but I'm gonna try and just trying to add some water over the top of that, and that's half, and see what happens there. I'm gonna take a little bit of water, just kind of throw some in there, throw a little in there. It's still wet in that area, so let's see how that comes out. But man, this, I can already tell, is gonna be really fun to use. Some around there. Oh, you're getting a nice yellowing effect there, brightening it up, like kind of like you said. So that's that. All right. So I got a wet brush here, which is a little different than how we started. So I'm going to put some just dry. This is that gray from Monument Hobbies, the dark. What was it? The dark. I can't find it. The dark neutral gray, and I'm going to put this right over, and that's got the Agrax. Nope, it's got the Gnome oil over it. So same thing, same kind of base. So I'm just going to kind of tap this in there. And this was put on with, my brush was a little wetter than that first one. So let's just see how it goes. I'm going to try and just kind of coat this whole thing in it and see how it turns out. Dude, this is up my alley. I love this stuff. So putting it on there, and it already kind of changed that, got really dark comeback. Now that's, I'm liking the effect over the silver better than over the gray. I'm gonna let that dry. I'm gonna take some and put it over the brown, which, let's see how this turns out. It's been a long time since I painted on camera, so I'm trying to make sure everything's in focus and looking down here. Oh, come on. There we go. right. Get a lot in that crack. I like that over the brown. Let's see what happens. I'm gonna go back and... Oh, you can feel it kind of gunking up, which I like. Putting this just double coating on there. All right. Oh, I like that. I like that it does create a start. It does start to create a sort of texture on there if you keep tapping, which is nice. Like rust really would. Holy cow. Nice. Okay. And then finally onto this light gray. It's a lighter gray. It's still under or no, I think this was the bright warm gray. That's right. This was the bright warm gray. So let's try this out. Get some right in those cracks there. And kind of give this an all over. Just kind of tap it on. See what it looks like. Dun dun dun. Get it in all the cracks. Man, I'm going to be buying this by the gallon. All right, I'm going to let that dry. Ooh, I really wasn't on camera. Let's try that. Okay. Let's get in those cracks. Let's go back to the first one, which was this. See what it looks like so far. That's pretty awesome. That is a gross, nice, rusty. Let's put a little over that in some spots. Let's get a little more in there. And a little more in here. Over that. There's still some water sitting on top that hasn't evaporated. So, there we go. I like this. Really liking that. I'm going to take some water and tap some water in there on those edges. And it does. Man, there's going to be so much you can do just experimenting and kind of playing with this and learning how the effects work. Really like that. Oh my gosh. All right, so going back over to this. This was the one that was just on the dark gray. And that does have it. I like how this brightness got in there. Let's drop some water on there. And drop a little water, pool it in there. It's gonna pool some water in that rivet down in here, and that rivet over here. Just see what happens. Okay. All right. Same thing. Let's just take some water over the top of this. Ooh, that looks like, I don't know how to explain it. Come on, camera. That looks like when you get those really nice burnt, rusty grill parts. And that's really dark in there. I think I'm going to try something with this. I'm going to add some water over the top of that. Water in there. Some water over this. And then see if I could get just a little over there. I'm going to work. I can feel it. I'm going to put some right over on top of water that's wet and see what happens with that. Okay. And now this one. Look at that. Oh my gosh. I don't know, like, if someone's saying they're having a hard time with this stuff and it's not working, I don't understand, because that, I really didn't do anything. You've watched this all happen live in real time. And all I did was water and the paint. Let's drop some water in these. See what happens. Now I think going back and like doing a dry brush on some of these. So I'm gonna let those dry, clean off my brush. Ooh, it does gunk up your brush a bit. All right, so I'm gonna let those sit for a minute. I'm gonna close this up. I'm gonna break out the verdigris and see how that goes. That was the rust. Okay, verdigris was pre-shook, but I'm gonna shake it again, get it all going. So since my original brush is already wet, I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of try. So these are the ones I think that are a little harder to get right. So I'm gonna use a dry brush on this first. So this is the Retributor Armor. And I'm just gonna kind of go over this. This instantly kind of just looks green. I'm gonna put some water on there. Get it to flow. Get some water. Let's see what happens. Turn it almost into wash. Let that dry. Want that in all those cracks. All right. I'll let that go for a bit. Let that dry. I'm going to put some of this verdigris over this color. I don't know what it's going to do. I have that wet brush. Kind of tap it on there. Do the whole thing. Come back. Oops, bumped the camera. This has a, that's turning. Oh, I keep bumping the camera. See how that goes. Okay, verdigris. See what happens. Now this, let's go back to this one. Still drying. Tap around. Get my brush wet a little bit. Go get in there. It's probably gonna take a bit to dry. So what I'll probably do is turn the camera off for a bit, let this dry, and come back to that. All right, moss. Let's try some moss. Pre-shook, but shaken again. Ooh, already, hold up. So already with this one, I'm getting a weird shadow. Why am I getting a shadow? For my finger? You're already getting, come on camera. You're getting some blue in there, right there. I think you can see it. Oh, it's totally, like, time-lapse this would be fun. There's some really cool tones starting to pop up in there. I like this. That was over the brown. The gold, still wet, so let's see what happens. This might take a while to dry, so we'll see. Okay, moss. This, I'm going to just jump right in. This is that Wraithbone with Mortarian Grime. I'm gonna kind of just, here, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna do like all over the whole thing. That's what I'm gonna do. And I'm going to get a paper towel and just quickly wipe it off. I'm not gonna sponge it off. I'm just gonna do a quick wipe. I'm gonna do the whole thing. Boom. Paper towel. And I'm gonna wipe. Tap. Probably should have got it wet. All right, let's see how this looks. Let that go. All right, and then finally, the last base here is that Rackhearth flesh. Let's see how moss goes on over that. And this one I'm only going to tap in certain areas. I'm going to put it really thick right there just to see what happens. Put some down in there. And put some there. And let's see. Put some in all the rivets. There we go. I'm going to leave it like that and just see how that looks as opposed to covering the whole thing. So there's my bases. Already, you're starting to see some really cool stuff happen here. I really like that bright orange that's popping. And I think you could keep that going as it dries. Look at this already. The verdigris over that. Man. Holy cow. And then the gold, you can already start to see it popping over there on that side. So I'm going to let these dry for a bit. We'll come back after it dries for a while. I'm going to maybe try and wipe some of this off. Which one should I do that on? These turned out really good. This is a lot darker than I would like. So I'm going to get this wet. Wait, let me close my moss before I spill it. Because you know me, I spill everything. And I didn't put the lid on. Man, I wish these were big. They were bigger bottles because I know I'm going to go through a lot. Okay. This one. I'm just going to get this wet a little bit. This paper towel. I'm just going to kind of do a little wipe. And see. Probably should have used a brush. I'm just going to let that reactivate. Re-dry. And see how it comes back. So I think I wiped most of it off there. I'm going to get some more rust. I'm going to get some more rust. Just tap that on. I'm going to put some water on it. Yeah, I think I wiped most of it away, which I didn't want to do. But I don't know. Let's see what happens. Let it dry. All right, cool. We'll be back. Okay, it's been about, you can see him there. It's been about 15 minutes only, and I broke the rules because I wanted to see what happened. In the last about 5 minutes, I hit that one with a hairdryer on low because, yeah, they're extremely flammable, but I just want to see what would happen. I cannot say how impressed I am with some of the effects that happened here. Now, I want to pull this down. I went at Adepticon. I took one of the classes at the officially sponsored Games Workshop classes, and one of them was special effects. And they were talking about verdigris, and I already knew kind of what it was going to be, but I wanted to see what it was actually going to be. And it was just using their technical paint, which is Nihilica oxide. I know I'm saying that wrong, and it's worked in the past for me. And you can do some cool things with it, like spot effects and stuff, but it's nowhere near like the real stuff like that you got here. And I wanted to show you, I wanted to compare. This is the same like Retributor armor, gold, over just a standard Stormcast mini. And this is the effect you get of just this, okay, over that gold, right? So let's compare the two. We have Dirty down here, and Citadel Nihilica oxide. Nihilica oxide. And you can see you just don't get the different values and textures that you get with the Dirty down on here. This just seems like your simple blue wash. It doesn't dry in any sort of pattern, not pattern, but like there's no texture to it. There's no life to it. It just, you'd have to go back in with other paints, I think, to achieve what you get with this. Because here you get darker ones, you get lighter tones, darker tones. The way it can pool and work, you get a huge difference in the Dirty down versus the Citadel way. And while I still think there's place for this paint, like if you have to spot touch something, and this is more for, I'm going for the full blown, wow. I love this. This looks so flippin' good. And this is just one time. If I go back in with more in water and try and, I could re-dry brush or add some more or get some more water pooled on there, then you're going to end up with something that looks amazing. And I think this looks amazing off the bat. I really like how it pooled in that spot there. I like how I got it to pool around there. And even dark in there, I laid a ton down in that spot, like right there. And I really like how that turned out too. And same with like right in there. That looks really cool. You get a dark color, and then it kind of works its way up into those blues. Now compare, this is on top of the XV88 color, and this turned out great too. You get some really cool stuff. And again, this is just the straight paint with no extra attention done to it. I'm not going in and saying, hey, I haven't dry brushed this again. I haven't added anything to it. This is just the straight verdigris. I love it. The moss, I think I gotta try it a little more. And on my Wraithbone here, I like how it turned out. I'm not sure if it's what I would want for what I was thinking I might do with it, but I know there's things I can do. I like how it looks, but I think I have to play with it a little more and maybe go back and add some water over it. I think it looks a little better on this darker brown. Like, I think this may be on top of, come on camera, on top of some mud will look really cool, because I like the different values again that you get in there. And if I go back with a brush and try and like wipe some of that off, I think you're going to get some pretty cool effects, and this could end up looking amazing. But again, this is just straight out of the bottle with no extra prep, no extra work, nothing else to it. So now on to the rust, which is, I think, the the coup de grace. Is that the right thing? The pinnacle of what this stuff can do. This, to me, is just drop dead gorgeous. And I love this. And again, it's not any extra. What is going on, camera? I can't wait to get a new camera. This is that Brio, and it has a focusing issue. Okay, so I really like how this, especially when I went back and pooled some extra water in there. Never mind my art hands, they're all scaly. And I like how that bright orange shows up where you do pool water. And I think, again, going back with a dry brush or spotting or erasing some of the stuff, this is the one over the silver, which I think is, I really like the way that turned out. The other one, this was the one over the light gray. And that, I love the texture and the values you get in this one. And again, going back, you're going to be able to do a lot. This was over the brown, I think. And then, yeah, this one was over the brown or the light gray. Wow, I can't even remember. Yeah, this one was over the brown, and that turned out awesome too. I love this spot right up in there. Let's see if I can get a non-shadowy spot on there. I love the way that right up in that top, that almost burnt color to that bright orange in there is just fantastic. And you get tons of really cool textures with it. I like how it pulled around that rivet. Looks fantastic too. Great stuff. This one was over the dark gray with the wash on it. And it turned out good. I think if I go back and work on this a little more with some water, it'll get just as good as the others. It's just a matter of playing around with this stuff. So that's my quick and dirty down, not tutorial, test. I don't know what you want to call it, but I impressed off the bat. Like, great stuff. Head on over to Dirty Down. Let me flip the camera around here to just me. Head on over to Goblin's Hut and use the promo code MCTV in all capitals. Get some money off your order and help out, help Mark out over there. This is great stuff. Dirty Down, beautiful work, beautiful paint. Couldn't recommend this more. So that's Dirty Down. I really like the way this worked. Great stuff. Again, goblinshut.com. Link will be down below. Promo code MCTV in all caps. Get some money off your order and, support a great guy. Oh, I can't wait to use this more. Excited. See everybody later.